Hey, Griff Hamlin here. Welcome to this video with me today. We're going to be talking about jam tracks, and we're going to talk about what they are, what they can do for you, what the purpose is and why you need them. We'll also talk a lot about how to use them. That's going to be the big portion of our video today, and also where you can get them and what you should look for when you're trying to choose some. So kind of a cool little side benefit of today's video is that in order to really show you how to use jam tracks, I'm going to have to actually teach you a rhythm or two and maybe a couple of licks to work with. So I hope you'll grab your guitar and play along with me today. So the first thing we're going to talk about, like I said, is what are jam tracks. And some people call them jam tracks, some people call them backing tracks, some people call them -1s, but they're basically just a recorded version of a band. And it can be a multitude of different things, and usually there's one instrument left out, and that would be the instrument that you're going to fill in. Now, when I was a kid, we used to just play along with the radio, and that was always a drag because somebody was singing or there was another guitar player going on, stuff like that. So it was a lot more difficult. Nowadays, there's a lot of resources for jam tracks, and we'll talk more about that later. So let's get into what they can do for you, because this is the big one. The main thing about jam tracks and why you need them is rhythm and timing and feel and getting that experience of playing with a band. Of the thousands of students that I see, there is no greater problem that I see than timing issues. And maybe you play a little bit too fast, you get ahead of the band, maybe you fall behind sometimes. The end result is all the same. You're not staying with the band. Even when you're playing by yourself, you're not keeping a consistent tempo. And playing with a band can really, really help that. It'll affect every area of your playing, not just your chords, but your lead playing as well. And in fact, that's another big mistake people make, is thinking that, oh, well, I'm playing a solo, I don't really have to think about the rhythm right now. Nothing could be further from the truth. When you are soloing, your ability to still play in time is real. That's really the difference between sounding so and sounding really, really good. Even if you're playing something that's maybe not that complicated, if it's right in the groove and it's right in the pocket, it's going to sound great, as opposed to kind of all over the place where it doesn't really matter how cool the notes are, it's still not going to sound very good. Now, the other thing about jam tracks that I think is extremely important is that they're fun, and they really do bring an element of fun into your playing and into your practice sessions. I think there's nothing better to do than to take the last 5 or 10 minutes, break out a couple of jam tracks, and just experiment, just try, just play some stuff over it, see if it works and see if it doesn't. I often say that playing wrong notes is actually more useful than playing the right ones, because you'll learn what not to do next time. And that's big. You want to be able to take those chances and kind of go out on a limb and try something new when you're not on a bandstand and there's no pressure. You're just playing with the track. The track doesn't care if you make a mistake or not. So that's the time to experiment and try out some new things and see if you like the sound. And like I said, even just trying for maybe 5 to 10 minutes, you're going to have some fun at the end of your practice session, and that's going to inspire you to come back again tomorrow. If you leave on a good note, it's a lot easier to come back the next day and do it all over again. Now, like I said, you can use jam tracks to work on both your rhythm and your lead playing. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually start with kind of a simple rhythm pattern. I'm going to show you how it would sound over several different jam tracks and how you would apply it over those jam tracks so you can see how this would work for yourself. So the first thing that I'm going to start with is a blues in the key of C. So I'm going to start with a C7 chord, and you can play it like this, or like this, or like this, or like this, however you want. We don't really have time in this video to get too into all the different chord shapes involved, but I'm assuming for our purposes that you can play a C7 chord. So this rhythm is very simple. Now the most important element of it, of course, is going to be the timing and the counting. So if you take a look at what my right hand is going to do, it'll do something like this. 1 and 2, I mute the strings, and 3 and 4 and. So I'm strumming on 1 and, muting on 2, just laying my palm against the strings, coming up on the and then 3 and 4 and. I just let it, I kind of relax my left hand, so I don't really have to mute with my right, I just relax my left. So it's like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So it's really nothing very complicated at all. It's a pretty simple rhythm. And if I move it up to like F, or down here, and then there's the G, or up here, it could be in any of those places. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what that rhythm would sound like if we played it over a sort of a mid-tempo shuffle in the key of C, since we did it in the key of C. This is similar to I'm Tore Down, which was done by Freddie King and Eric Clapton. So check it out. Here's what it would sound like. Now let's move it to the key of E. So we'll move it up to the 7th fret here, E. And this will be a slower tempo, still kind of a shuffle though. This will sound reminiscent of Clapton's version of Sweet Home Chicago that he did recently. Now you don't always have to do this over a 12 bar, it'll work just as well over an 8 bar. So let's go now to the key of A and have a listen to what this would sound like over a, again, another mid-tempo shuffle in the key of A, but this time it's going to be an 8 bar blues, like Key to the Highway. Now let's take a look at another type of rhythm. This would be more of a funk blues, which I happen to really like. I'm a big Freddie King fan. This is definitely the kind of thing he was known for. But I hear it all over the place. So let's take a look. If we move to a B flat, so I'm up here, 6th fret, B flat 7. I'm just going to play a little one, or you could play like a B flat 9, either one. I kind of dig the 9th chord sound for the funky blues, so I'm going to go with that. So what I'm going to do in this rhythm, if you take a look again at my right hand, I'm going to be subdividing my beats into 4 pieces. So it's going to be 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and what's really important is that you be able to count that. If you can't count these rhythms, you really can't ever play them correctly. So make sure you can count them out. So it's going to be something like this: 1E and 2. And that much is the most important part because of those couple of steps where I skip the strings. 1 E and. You'll notice I keep my hand moving. 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. And when I'm not playing, you see I kind of relax my fingers and lay them across the fretboard. That way, if I do happen to hit the strings, it actually gives kind of a cool little percussive sound. So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. If I speed it up, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. And again, I can add in some more of that percussive sound. However you want to do that. So now let's take a listen to what that type of thing would sound like over kind of a funk, blues, and B flat. This is kind of reminiscent if you've ever heard Chris Duarte's version of Freddie King's Big Legged Woman. It's got this kind of groove, so check this out. Now that last example had kind of a funky, I call it a lopey vibe. Let's move to a different type of thing where it's more of a straighter feel. Still going to be that same 16th note rhythm, but this time I'm going to move it up to D. So I'm going to be playing D9. And this is reminiscent of Me and My Guitar, as made famous by Freddie King. The last rhythm that we're going to talk about today is what I call the standard blues in E pattern, and you probably know this one. It's basically just, kind of bouncing back and forth between the 2nd and 4th fret on the 5th string, and I have the low E here. And you can go slow like that, you can go fast. All kinds of different things. And if you move it up to A or B, it can be done here or here. Again, this is a very standard rhythm. It's probably one you've seen. So let's take that blues in E pattern and let's give it a nice healthy dose of shuffle and do it over a jam track along the lines of Look at Little Sister by Stevie Ray Vaughan. Now we can take that groove and we can move it to the key of A and totally straighten it out. So instead of 1 and 2, it's 1 and 2 and 3. And you probably recognize that from songs like Keep Your Hands to Yourself by the Georgia Satellites. So let's hear what that rhythm would sound like over just that type of a jam track. And last but not least, of course, no demonstration would be complete without a good old-fashioned slow blues. So let's do something in the style of Red House by Jimi Hendrix. This is going to be in B flat, and it's a slow blues. Check it out. Alright, so there you have 3 different rhythms that you can use over several different jam tracks and all kinds of feels and keys. So hopefully you can see that there's a lot that can be done there. So now let's say that you want to work on a new lick. Okay, so let's say you've got the following lick, and I'm just going to pick something nice and simple to start with. So we're going to do in the key of A. I'm going to simply go, I've got my 3rd finger on the 10th fret, A on the 10th fret of the B string, down to the 7th fret, back to the 10th fret, and up to the 8th fret of the 1st string. So the notes themselves are no big deal at all. But of course, what's important is to get the counting right. So it's like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Again, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So as you can see, it's actually not too difficult of a lick at all. There's only 4 notes in it. It's actually pretty straightforward. But the fun, of course, comes in where we try to put it over a jam track. So let's try with kind of more of a rock flavored blues in A. This is kind of similar to Crossroads as done by Cream. So check out what this lick would sound like over that. All right, now let's take the exact same lick, move it down just 2 frets to G, and put it over kind of a little bit slower. This is sort of almost Johnny B. Goodish, but it's in the key of G. If you've ever heard John Mayer's version of Route 66, this is it's that kind of feel. So check it out, and you'll notice that I'm just playing the lick over and over and over again. This is to get the idea of what it sounds like at different points within the progression, so you can decide which one you like the best, and that's where you're going to use it. But I don't want you to feel like this is only good over a fast rock blues, because it's not even close. Let's try something with kind of a almost a swampy, Cajun-y kind of feel. And what I'm going to do on this one is we're going to move it to the key of D. So in D, I can either do it down here at the 3rd fret, or I can move it up here to the 15th. Probably easier at the 15th because you don't have the open string to contend with. So let's do it there. We'll now do it over a like I said, a kind of a Cajun-y in D. It's a blues in D. So check it out. So as you can see, even though it's just a short little lick, it's useful in a lot of different places. Let me go ahead and show you our standard swing blues in G feel, so you can also hear that it does work in a more traditional sense. That was just your basic blues in G, kind of, if you've heard B.B. King's version of Let the Good Times Roll. It's along those lines. But speaking of B.B. King, one of my favorite things to do with this particular lick is make it minor sounding. And the way we're going to do that is actually adjust one note slightly. So if I'm going to be in B minor for this next one. But instead of using the 9th fret, I'm going to use the 10th. And you'll hear that the reason, now you could try them both out, and I encourage you to do that over your jam track. But I prefer the 10th for a minor blues. So let's listen to what this sounds like over a minor blues in the style of The Thrill Is Gone by B.B. King. All right, so that's just one little phrase, but as you can see, it could go in a multitude of places. So let's take a look at another lick. In this one, what we're going to do is change things around slightly. We're still going to be in A. This one's just a little bit longer, and we're going to use basically that same area of the fretboard. We're going to have 10, the A on the second string, 10th fret, 8th fret. Then we're going to bend 8th fret on the first string, bend up the 10th fret, and hold it, and then play the 10th fret released, back to the 8th, and the 10th, and then the 8th. So the notes are 10, 8, 10 bend, 10, 8, 10, and then up to 8. If we put that in time, again, it's the timing that's important. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Again, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. A little faster. A 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And if it's straight, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So in this first example, I'm actually going to bring it down a half step. So instead of the 10th fret, we'll be starting at the 9th fret. We're going to use it right now over a swing blues in A flat. This is very similar to T-Bone Shuffle by T-Bone Walker. Check it out. So now I'm going to move this lick to the key of D. Again, I'll bring it up high. And this is actually going to go over a completely different form. It's not a traditional 12-bar blues form, although it does use just the 1, the 4, and the 5. It's an 8-bar progression, and this is similar to Walking by Myself, as done by Gary Moore. So kind of check out this. You can see that this works over that kind of a vibe as well. And again, jumping in and doing a completely different feel. This is often called a blues mambo or a blues rumba. This is going to be in the key of B. You'll hear there's definitely no swing involved, but this is similar to Messin' with the Kid or Crosscut Saw. It's a very similar groove. So check this one out. Now the last lick that I'm going to share with you today is in the key of C. I stole it fair and square from Eric Clapton, who stole it fair and square from Freddie King, who I don't know where he stole it from, but I'm going to share it with you and you can steal it from me. So this is going to be in the key of C. It's going to be like this. It's a great lick, uses it in the turnaround of a bunch of different things. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the 8th fret on the 3rd string, I'm sorry, the 10th fret, and bend it up to the sky, a full step. Match the pitch with the 8th fret on the 2nd string, then the 8th fret on the 1st string, the 11th and the 8th fret on the 2nd string. I usually do a pull off when we get to speed. Then I'm going to do a bend and release on the 10th fret of the 3rd string. And then oftentimes I'll pull off to the 8, or you can pick it. Then the 10th fret and the 8th. Now this one is divided into triplet groups, so it's pretty much going to have to be in something that's divided in triplets, like a slow blues or a shuffle or a swing type of blues. But here's how it would count out. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. So let's take a listen to what that lick would sound like over a tore down style rhythm. Now, if we take that lick and move it down to the key of E, you end up with some open strings. If that's confusing, sometimes it's easier to move it up to the 12th fret. But it's exactly the same thing. And here's what it would sound like if we do it over more of a Texas Shuffle, Pride and Joy style thing in the key of E. Now you may have troubles playing the lick that fast, and you may just prefer a slow blues sound because it's awesome. So if we move the lick down to the key of G, and we put it over a Texas Flood style slow blues jam track in the key of G, it'll sound something like this. Now, while it's great to learn all these licks, at some point you have to string them together and make something out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take yet another jam track. This is going to be in the key of F sharp or G flat, depending on how you want to look at it. This is going to be, again, kind of a mid-tempo shuffle. That's something that we see a lot in the blues. And it's going to be along the lines of Letter to My Girlfriend, if you've heard that by Stevie Ray Vaughan or Chris Duarte. It's a great tune, kind of mid-tempo, easy riding thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these licks, 1, and then number 2, and then number 3. And I'm just going to play them in order. And then I'm going to do it again, 1, and 2, and 3. And then I'll probably do number 2 again at the end, because I got a hunch that's going to be about where the turnaround is. And I like that lick over the turnaround. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2 over this jam track. And I'm just going to go in order, and here is what that would sound like. Now, as you may already know, there are actually a lot of jam tracks available out there on the internet. However, as with most things, I have found that you get what you pay for. So the free ones, what tends to happen is they tend to be played by computer. That may not make a whole lot of sense if you're not familiar with computers and music, but basically what happens is computers can take a small phrase and loop it, play the same thing over and over and over and over again. They can also, trigger musical events on a keyboard. The problem that I see a lot with that is twofold. One is because things are looped, they sound the same every time, which means your ear tends to get hooked on a certain little musical cue that repeats every time. And so as soon as you go try to play with somebody else, or as soon as you take the track away and that little cue is not there anymore, you're lost. So that's the first problem. Second problem is that because it sounds the same every time around, you don't get used to adapting to the ebb and flow, both as far as tempo and dynamics, louder or softer, of playing with a real band. Thirdly, these tracks usually don't sound very good. Now, granted, advances in modern technology have helped, But you can still tell. You hear things that are made by computer, and to some degree, they've still got that sort of bleep bloop quality to them sometimes, and it just doesn't really sound very good, and it's not as effective. You can typically find free jam tracks, on YouTube. Go search blues jam track or anything like that. You can do the same thing with the Google search, and you'll probably come up with several. Again, these might do the job at the beginning. If you have absolutely no experience with jam tracks at all, they might do some good for a little while, and so you can definitely go that route. But don't rely on them for a long period of time. At some point, spend the money, get some decent jam tracks that are made well and will have that dynamics and have some real feel. I actually have recently gone into the studio with my own band. We've put together a set of jam tracks that fit that criteria. If you're interested in those, I'll put more information below this video and you can check them out. You've actually heard many of the examples of these jam tracks in this video. I've been using them as my backing band. There's 40 of them. We went into our own professional recording studio, recorded them, put them all together for you, and they're really great. We've got a lot of great feedback on them, and I'm excited to finally get to do this. This is something that a lot of my students have been asking for a long time, so I'm excited to be able to do it. As I said, I'll leave some more information below this video, but the primary point here today is that if you're not using jam tracks in some capacity, please go do that. And of course, like I said, if you're interested in the ultimate blues jams that we've put together, there's more information below this video. And I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've got something out of it, and I look forward to talking to you soon.